You're listening to a podcast from the Finnish Football Show. Yes, it's the Finnish Football Show. Listener, thank you for joining us again. We're here to look at recent events in the Veikkausliiga and Suomen Cup. And it's been a few days since you last heard us, but for us it's been just a few minutes since we recorded the previous show, the HJK match preview episode. So I'm still joined by Keke Muuleri. Hi Keke.
Terve.
Mark Hayton. Hi Mark.
Moi.
And Rasmus Junnila. And Mark and Keke are more HJK focused nowadays until HJK Jyväskylä get themselves back into the Veikkausliiga. So I think it's me and Rasmus doing most of the heavy lifting. We've also got a few of the listeners that have phoned in their thoughts and their reviews of the season, and we've got some from the top and some from the bottom of the table. So we'll be dropping those in as we go through. Um, but before we get started, I just wanted to give a shout out to one of our listeners who contacted me on Facebook Messenger, Bobby Bright. Hi, Bobby. And he just said, I'm a Brit living here in Ireland with a Finnish wife. Every time I visit Finland, I go to a game from the first to the fourth tier. And I was recently gifted merch for being the first Sexy Buksud fan from the UK. Um, I love the Finnish football show. Kulta. And and particularly the intro music. And then he asked me, what's it called so I can download it? And I replied directly to Bobby, but Mark, what is that music and where did it come from?
Yeah, the band is the Lemmenpyssyt, and or Pyssyt, Lemmenpyssyt, if I get my Finnish pronunciation correct. And the song is Loppuun asti. So it's a rock and roll banger from. I think the band is. I saw the band back in about 2006, 7, 8, something like that, in Tampere, and in also Anjalankoski or Alhonkatu Rock in Kemi, actually, which is quite like, yeah, Kemi up north by the border, and a couple of other places. It's a great band. I'm not sure if they're still touring. I don't think they do gigs anymore, but hell of a song.
Very good. And it certainly starts each show with a bit of a boom. And back in the day when we used to play the music while we were listening to it, we would all be headbanging as the show started. But we edit it in now over the top of this intro. Anyway, Bobby, thanks for reaching out and always happy to hear from people that are listening and appreciating what we're doing. And occasionally, like when we were in Helsinki, in London the other week, and seeing a few listeners, or seeing people connected to the pod at the game, or when I'm at SJK walking around the stadium and people are sort of complimenting what we're doing here, it kind of makes it all worthwhile because we don't do it for money. We do it for, love and ego, basically. Um, let's crack on with I thought Rasmus talking a little bit about the Suomen Cup final. Um,
Yeah.
I didn't see the cup final, Inter versus KuPS. Were you there? Were you commentating on the game? It was in Tampere.
Yes, it was in Tampere, and there was this whole weekend of finals
Right,
that
okay.
suppose yeah, there's supposed to be a unique concept all around the world. Even they had the Roots Cup final, which I did commentate on Saturday, early afternoon. I think it was a 1 o'clock kickoff on Saturday. The Roots Cup had the highest finishing teams from Suomen Cup that were up to the 5th division, and they also included the, I don't know how to say it in English, the ikämiesjoukkueet. They had the TPS men's, they have to be at least 35-year-olds to qualify for the team, and TPS men 35s, they had a lot of players from players that had long careers for TPS playing in the Veikkausliiga and stuff like that. They had Kappe Hämäläinen, for example, playing in the Roots Cup final against a local team from Tampere, from the 5th division. They actually also had quite a few players that used to play at least in Kakkonen, or maybe a couple of guys even on a higher level. So it was good football match, the Roots Cup final. I think the weekend started on Friday with the Regions Cup final, which has teams from the 3rd division. I think that's the maximum level of the Regions Cup. Maybe I think it might be that, yeah. And then obviously the Suomen Cup final was on Saturday, the main event, and I wasn't working. Fortunately, I was having a sauna-ilta with my own football team, and we were there as a whole team. I managed to sneak into the VIP section to have a few beers on behalf of Palloliitto and friends over at the Veikkausliiga office and stuff like that, and had a good time over there. But yeah, it was a lovely occasion to start with, and in the end, it was an exciting match. Also, we at least had the first official big VAR moment of Finnish football, as the KuPS was just about to win the tie before the 90 minutes came to an end, but then the goal was disallowed from a VAR decision, and it went to extra time instead. So there was a big moment that KuPS fans were celebrating wildly, and then there was a break of a minute or two, and then the decision came, and then the Inter fans broke into cheering and stuff. So there was a funny moment.
And what about the KuPS won the Suomen Cup?
Yes.
How was the game? Did they deserve it?
It was a funny game in a way that it was quite boring for
Okay.
at least for the first half. It was a classic final, as it was really cautious, and there wasn't a whole lot going on from either side. I think KuPS dominated the first 2/3 of the pitch or the game, so to say. But when they came to the final third, they didn't have that much threat to the Inter goal. Inter was okay, but you could tell they were inferior to KuPS. But then they managed to get a goal quite in the beginning of the second half. 51 minutes was played when Darren Smith scored a goal. I think that was a nicely worked out goal, if I remember correctly now. It was a good goal from Inter, and then I think the game was still a bit stale for quite a while. The KuPS fans went totally silent for a long period. The Inter fans kept on going. The atmosphere was decent in the stadium, and but then in the end, Inter fell into the trap of going too low to defend their own box, and basically gave KuPS the keys to come back to the match. It was like a couple of minutes before full time. I said to the guys I was sitting with, I'm going to do all of us a favor and go take a sip, and I'm going to guarantee you KuPS will equalize. And as I was taking the piss, I could hear from the speakers in the stadium that all directed to the bathrooms as well. So I could hear them celebrating the equalizer. And then when I came back, the match resumed to extra time, and Pete Pennanen, who had scored the equalizer, he scored a cracking winner it was the second minute of the first half of extra time, and he had a nice celebration in front of the KuPS fans. So I think Petteri Pennanen really won the match for KuPS. But yeah, they were better, but they weren't spectacular by any means.
I think quite a few of the other teams, especially fans of SJK, were also having been knocked out of in the semi-final in that kind of epic semi in Seinäjoki where we bossed it and then lost it and then lost on penalties, and it was just horrible, horrible stuff. Then had to cheer for KuPS to win because that would then free up one of the European places and make it just a little bit easier for us to qualify for this Euro playoff. Um, I might have been cheering for them, but I didn't actually watch the final. And the way you described it means I think I probably saved myself a couple of hours of my life.
Yeah.
But KuPS have won this Suomen Cup quite regularly in the during the time that it feels that way in the time that we've been recording the Finnish football show now, which is 9 years, believe it or not. So congratulations to KuPS. Congratulations to the KuPS fans. That does mean that one of the European places that goes to the cup winners, because KuPS will finish in the top two places in the Veikkausliiga table, then one of those European places drops down to fourth place team. And myself and Jules have been talking about this in the SJK supporters podcast, and I think we talked about it in 3 consecutive pods before we actually finally started to understand what on earth we're talking about. We read a right pig's ear of it the first time. I know. But let's maybe move on and talk about the Veikkausliiga and maybe go from the top. Maybe not even necessarily team by team, but just like kind of what the situation is, because it's sort of spread the Mestaruussarja, the championship series at the top now. It's there for KuPS or Ilves to win now. KuPS are currently top, 53 points from 26 games, and they play HJK, who are third in the final game of the season. Ilves are second, 51 points from 26, and they play SJK, who are in fourth. And SJK need a point at least to guarantee that fourth place and not have to rely on Haka. And so we got to go for it. And KuPS really have to go for it because HJK, I'm sure, would enjoy nothing more than screwing things up for KuPS right at the end of the season. Whether they're capable or not, that's another matter. Before I hear from you about this, Rasmus, let's hear from listener Jamie, who had his thoughts about Ilves' recent form and heading into the final game.
Moi moi everyone, this is Jamie, Ilves fan. A quick update from me on how things are going with Ilves. Been a great couple of weeks, a great month actually for Ilves. Had 3 massive wins on the spin now. A home win to KuPS, which has kept the title race well and truly alive. That was a great performance with a better team. Great away win at HJK. That was a great Saturday night, great atmosphere. Both teams had their chances. The Ilves probably the better team and get a rare win in the capital, which was great. And I wasn't at the Vasa game, but looks from some of the videos that have been shared, looks an amazing atmosphere, an amazing trip there. I think some of the people on the supporters bus back had a good time. So sorry I missed that one. But yeah, title's going to be close. KuPS at home to HJK. You'd have to fancy KuPS with HJK's run of form, but you never know with them. So we're hoping for a bit of a miracle at the weekend. If that does happen and HJK get something, we have to beat SJK at home. And let's see. The form we're on at the moment, you'd have to fancy Ilves. Regardless of that, though, things are looking positive for next year. The stadium's been full quite a few times this season. It's sold out for the final game. The game against KuPS the other day, there was more people at Tamala than there was at Tappara's game on at the same time, which I think says something about where football is in temper at the moment and how it's growing. So really positive signs. We might not do it this year in terms of getting the title, but a silver medal and bringing some positivity back to the city has been great. So let's see what happens, and positive for next season. And I'll be back speaking to you all next season with more updates from Ilves and hopefully Veikkausliiga in general. So yeah, speak to you soon.
Okay, Jamie's clearly very optimistic, very positive. You can almost hear him bouncing off the walls there. How are you feeling about it, Rasmus?
I'm not allowing myself to think about any potential title party. I just can't. I can't bear the thought. If it happens, I'll just let it happen and see where and in which state I'm going to wake up the next morning, or if I'm going to wake up at all. I don't know. It's going to be totally crazy if it goes to that. But Ilves have won 4 matches on the bounce in the championship round against the other top 6 teams in the league, which is obviously wonderful, and a great job from the team and the coaching staff as well. You might say we're going to regret drawing away to Gnistan in the last match of the regular season, but I don't think it should come down to that. I don't think at any point of this season Ilves have been really on top of the league and in charge of the title race. It's differentiated a lot between the top 3 teams at different stages. There hasn't been long periods that HJK has been at the top either, but I think they've been there briefly as well, and they've been above Ilves in the table as well for periods of time. So I don't think it's ours to win. The only thing we can do is to beat you guys, Mark, in the final match of the season. It's going to be tough because you need to win. Also, the matches between Ilves and SJK have been really entertaining this season. I think they've been pretty even, but I think you guys still have got the better of us. So I think that on the context of the season, we owe you one, and we should definitely win the match in front of a sold out Tammela Stadium. The nice fact about that that the match got sold out like 3 or 4 weeks before the match, which is pretty rare in Finland. So the Tammela Stadium is going to be packed. I recommend it, everybody. Well, if you haven't got a ticket, it might be difficult, but should look out for any possibilities of going to the match if there's some late tickets released or something.
I'm
like that.
really looking forward to it. We just bought our tickets, so there's already one coach full, basically coach full, booked from the Seinäjoki Klopid, and that's before any other fans buy tickets and travel by themselves. So um, everyone's up for it, and even with we'll hear from Jules in a minute, but even with the sort of slight dip towards the end of the season, apart from one game, the team's been playing well and the fans are excited and the fans are travelling in numbers. We took 40 odd down to Hakka for the Friday game a few weeks ago, and that was people travelling in individual cars. This time there's a coach load of us coming down. I hope that we get a chance to meet on the day. I don't know if we're going to be like kettled into our stand and sort of snuck out afterwards, but I hope that we get to say hi, Rasmus, and also maybe with Jamie as well, because I haven't seen him for a while.
And I've actually been exchanging messages throughout the season with him, and we still haven't got the chance to catch up for a beer at the match. So we're going to have to do it at the last game of the season. But yeah, looking forward to catching up with you guys if there's a window for that. But I suppose there should be. But from Ilves' point of view, I think it would be a bit of a bummer if we lost or drew the match obviously depends a bit on how the match is going to go. But if we win and KuPS also wins, I don't think there would be a whole lot of disappointment in the stadium. There's still lots of reasons to be really proud of the team throughout the season. I think all of the targets and goals that the management and the team itself has set before the season, all of those will be accomplished if we finish second. And if KuPS wins, that will mean that the European slot for the cup winner goes to the second place team if KuPS wins the double. So Ilves would get the cup winners European place, which they got last year from winning the cup, and which allowed them to go straight to the second qualification round of the Conference League, and getting a bigger sum of money and stuff like that. So that would be really good to get the second best European place, even though we messed up the cup against SJK in summer.
Yeah. It was around midsummer, wasn't it? So those two games quite close to each other just before midsummer. Let's hear from.
I'm sorry, just before you go over there, I was just going to say, like, I think we can all agree that, like, Ilves is the story of this season. Like the way that they've kept going, and still on the final day, they're maybe slim, but there is still a chance that they could clinch the title. And obviously you're going down to or across to Tampere as an SJK fan, and you want your side to do well. But I think even you would not begrudge Ilves the title, and there is a scenario where that could happen, and you could still be happy. It just means you need to support VPS against Hakka. So,
that's brilliant. That sounds like a great weekend. Going down to Tampere, hoping my team loses, and then hoping that the local rivals win. That sounds a dreadful weekend away. Thanks for that, Keke. You're a troll. Let's hear from Ali about HJK, and then let's see what Mark has to say about all that.
Hello everyone, Ali Manson here to do a little bit of a post-mortem, I feel, about HJK's playoff games recently. I mean, I say post-mortem because that's what it deserves. It has been a shambles, really, but it has also been a pretty terrible season. When you take a step back and look at it, it started off with chaos at management level, and that has translated onto the pitch. And frankly, they just haven't been good enough. And I think the 1-0 home loss at home to Hakka at the weekend just kind of summarises not only how the direction that the club has been going in this season, but I think also how the fans are feeling as well. Everyone's just a little bit fed up and a little bit bored of how the team have played all year. There's been a couple of decent results. I mean, the game against Key Klasvik, which was the qualifying game to get into the European Conference League, which I'll touch on in a minute. That was such a joy. That was brilliant. That was, one of the best atmospheres I've seen in Finnish football, and such a pulsating finish. But those games have not been really they've been few and far between, and it's been poor. And if you're not going to win any of your playoff games, you cannot expect to win the league, or even have a sniff of winning the league. And so now we look to the final game, which is, of course, against KuPS. So the only thing that HJK can do now is stop KuPS from winning the league. And frankly, I hope they do, because I think Ilves have been fantastic all season. I think they've been playing the best football. So I'm probably going to make myself even more unpopular with the KuPS fans by saying that I really hope Ilves do it at the weekend. But to be honest, also Ilves, don't expect any favours from HJK, because I think these players at the moment, they are solely concentrated on the European campaign now, and so they probably won't be putting their bodies on the line because, there's some European games left. It started off pretty badly this week away to Lugano with a 3-0 loss, but HJK's away form is always pretty patchy at best, so they will be looking at the home games to be picking up some points and just see how high up this league table that they can finish. The first home game is at home to Dynamo Minsk, who lost at home to Hearts. Now, I don't know too much about Belarusian football. I know a little bit about Scottish football, and Hearts are all right. They're not a bad side, but HJK surely can, put all their eggs into the European basket now, and hopefully can beat Minsk in a couple of weeks' time, because frankly, it's all they have left, and these European nights might not be coming around too often over the next year or so, so they really need to make the most of it.
Okay, Mark, so Ali described his own piece as a bit of a post-mortem for Igor for this season. You are sitting there wearing a Igor Jyväskylä shirt.
Yes, Mark. Yes, Mark.
But you have a soft spot for HJK. So I've got two questions. Where and why did you get that shirt? And then give me your thoughts on HJK.
So I got this from our fan of the show, friend of the show, Farid, who broke off a romantic weekend with his missus to bring me the shirt, which was fantastic. And actually, and I think while he was here, I also gave him some tips on how to catch the Futura game that was going on. So his missus might not thank me for the for the weekend he had here. HJK soft spot. I mean, I think, been in Finland for, as long as I've been in, some of the best nights we had were the European games, like when we had Bratsaric and Teemu Pukki up front for HJK. And it's a strange thing. I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure I class myself still as a HJK fan proper, because also when HJK turned up, like that was a proper journey, and I really enjoyed that group of lads and that team. But this season, I mean, after middle of September, after the split in the league, they just sort of fell off a cliff. I think after the winning against the Icelandic guys, they just really sort of struggled to put any significant form together, and the way they play, I think, was it's been really ponderous, really methodical. They keep relying on, I think, old vets to come in and try and dig them out. I mean, they've got is it his third or fourth time back? Tanaka's like back trying to save them, and it's great. He's a great player, great technical guy, but he's, I think, 37, something like that. So it's quite mad to sort of see how much they try to depend. I think Jesse is still in goal, so they turn. Joona Toivio is still at the back. So there's a lot of, I think, sort of vets. I think Nicky Manpa's even still in the squad, although I'm not sure I think he's not played. So I mean, there's they have guys in the squad, and you think that I would say are probably, with all due respect to them and their careers, probably just a bit past it and not that competitive. And yet one old boy who's a man after my own heart, Roope Riski, was the guy who basically put the nail in the coffin. But it was like a week ago, 2 weeks ago, when Ilves knocked them 1-0. So I mean, I don't know. It's been difficult to follow. They've never really had a sort of consistent team, consistent way of playing. They've never really been able to sort of move the ball properly. It's been a frustrating year. I know Ali probably does a better technical and tactical analysis than I do, but it's been a strange all season for HJK.
Rasmus, anything to add to that? Do you want to put the boot in?
I think they were absolutely pathetic against the Ilves a bit over a week ago. if you think about the situation that they had to win Ilves at home, then a week after HJK at home, which they lost, obviously they had in between a match in the Conference League in Switzerland against Lugano, quite a heavy defeat as well. But if they could have risen up to the occasion in Veikkausliiga, winning Ilves and HJK, they would have given themselves the chance to win the title in the last game by beating KuPS away. They've done things like that before when they've been quite average for most of the season, but then went on to win the last 5 games or maybe even 10 games or so. But nothing like that has materialized this season. They haven't got any winning edge or anything about them. The only thing they got going for them is they brought in Lee Urban in the latter parts of the season. He hasn't played for that long. I think he's played 10 games in Veikkausliiga, and he
five goals in 10 games is quite something, isn't it?
Yeah. 5 goals in 10 games and a couple of assists, and he scored a few in the European qualifiers as well to get them the place in the Conference League. So he's been a really big one for them. You might think if they had him for the whole of the season, which was the plan, but he had a difficult contract situation over there in Lebanon or something like that, where he previously was. So if they had him for the whole season, I think they might have a shout for the title with that alone, because he's such a good goal scorer for Veikkausliiga level. But other than that, I think they've been absolutely atrocious throughout the season as an organization, as a club, and also as a footballing team. Ilves and KuPS have both been so much better than them throughout the season, just purely as a footballing side. Even though they have the strongest squad, quite a few good players, they brought in basically a whole new team in July. Ilves faced them in July at Tammela, and when they faced them a week ago, they had one player from the starting 11 of that match in July. Yeah. That's incredible in itself. And then they rested the new Dutch goalkeeping giant Tijmen Nijhuis, and they played Jesse Öst, and on the bench was Nicky Mäenpää. So they rested players for a championship clash in Veikkausliiga to go on and get absolutely molested by Lugano in the Conference League. So good on them. I don't think that's they are in a sad situation, and I'm loving it every second of it.
Yeah, the way you described it, Rasmus, it sounds quite a lot like Ali's other team, Manchester United, as well. So I think he's perhaps the link between all of these.
I hate them even more so.
Let's hear now from Jules on his thoughts about SJK's season and end of season.
Hi, Julian here, and I'm going to give the feeling about SJK for this season. And just to give some context, it's straight after KuPS have won at the OMSB 0-1, 1-0 away win for them, which puts them into pole position for win a league, and hopefully, I think for SJK, then fourth place is now nailed on and the best we can do. And at the start of the season, I think everybody would have taken that, and we have played well. I think the players have developed, but there's a little bit of what could have been feeling that some results that just, when we needed to get over the line and we didn't, Lahti 5-5, losing 2-0 at home to Ginston, and getting a point away in EIF. So it's been a good season, and I think everyone's happy with the style of football we're playing and how things have gone. But there's a little bit of could have been a bit more. But then this is what you happen when you have a young side and a development project. Just sometimes just can't get over the line when you really need to, and that's the experience that's required. And so we will go into the fourth place playoff final for Europe, and we should win that, because SJK have been the fourth best team or in the Veikkausliiga, sometimes in the top three, but in the league we're going to finish fourth, so you can say that we're the fourth best team. So we should qualify for Europe. Whether we do or not is another thing. If we haven't got the momentum going into the final game, another team does. It's 2 cup finals. So not disappointed with the season, quite happy with the season. Let's see how it ends.
Okay, thanks to my partner in crime in the SJK supporters podcast, Jules. I think he's right. This what could have been for SJK. You mentioned before, Rasmus, about Ilves dropping points at Gnistan, and as Jules said, we've dropped points at home against them, away to EIF, and teams that we should have been beating. I think we held our own against the teams at the top, but perhaps haven't managed to get the points that we would have been expecting from down from the bottom half of the table. I said before about the number of fans traveling this year. This will be my third away game. Normally we make one away trip, and normally it's somewhere in Pohjanmaa to either Vaasa or Pietarsaari or Kokkola or somewhere nice and nearby. And this year I think it's two things. One is that the Kloppit supporters group has kind of organized itself into an association. And so there are people who are really trying to, yeah, organize and sort of drag others along with them. And they're whipping up some enthusiasm that people think, yeah, I want to travel. It's certainly kind of got us. But if what was going on the pitch was rubbish, then you wouldn't bother. But what's going on the pitch is exciting. It's good football. We're not always winning, but we are entertained. Apart from that dreadful game against Vaasa last week, which Stevie Grieve himself described as absolutely terrible, among other. Absolutely rubbish, he said. So I'm quoting him. I'm not. I'm not dissing the team. It was one of those games where everything went wrong, and then we were expecting a reaction against KuPS, and I think we got it. We created the chances. We had actually more shots on target, but couldn't quite get there. And then Pennanen takes a shot through a forest of legs. There were 5 players between him and the goal, and somehow it went through all of them. And that's them's the margins. So I'm sure that Yoni, friend of the show, Yoni is very happy. He met Jules up in the bar afterwards, and I hope he bought Jules several drinks to say sorry for more points taken. What will be interesting is to see what do SJK do in the closed season. How do they build on this? Um, Hopefully we end up in Europe. Hopefully Stevie stays and takes us into Europe. But how to strengthen the team, what to do. The philosophy of young players coming in is one that I think everyone believes in. People want to see players coming through the academy. They want to see local players also coming through into the team. That's football all around the world. Um, but is that philosophy enough to take a team into Europe? I don't know. It's a question, not a complaint. But if it's exciting next year like it was this season, then I'm in.
No,
Mark,
it's not.
Mark, you mouthed no, but only I could see it and nobody could hear it. What are you thinking?
No, 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 nothing. I mean, this was a good season. Rasmus said that HJK have been, HJK have been just losing the plot. I think KuPS are good and they played really well. And Ilves are good and they played really well, I think, but it's not a monster point. So I think was it 53,
Yeah,
54 points, 55
53 at
at
the
the top,
moment with
right?
the
So you
game to go.
I think HJK won similar types of leagues with sort of 60-ish, 50 odd, high 50s, sort of 60 odd points. So there's a bit of it's under this is a good season to kind of get it right.
Mm.
So next season you kind of have to assume. I mean, it depends I mean, the funny thing with like HJK and everybody else is that it really depends how Europe goes. Like if they do well in Europe, they might keep this odd mangled squad that's like half vets and half temps. So you,
Half
so you never
vets
know.
and
That might.
half temps.
But I mean, they are. I mean, like they like, yeah. But I don't know. Yeah, yeah. This was a good opportunity this season.
They've got
And
some. HJK got some good European fixtures coming up, haven't they? I mean, after the remaining league game against KuPS, they've got Dinamo Minsk at home, Olympia Ljubljana at home. They're away to Panathinaikos, at home to Molde, and away to Real Betis. I mean, it's not easy, but there's some decent names there in European football.
yeah, and I mean I mean, and I think that because of the expanded competition and the more sort of like varied games, there's more money. So I think they'll bring in more. They'll bring in more coin, which is not really.
That's just what
It's not
just what
great
we
for.
don't need, really.
But I mean, but how's Stevie been? So Stevie Greavy's like, I mean, he's now fully in, right? And SJK, like a year ago, 2 years ago, you were pulling your, I
Oh,
was
I
going to say
mean, no,
pulling your hair.
he was managing the academy a year ago and
Yeah,
almost got them, or they almost qualified for the Veikkausliiga. And
yeah,
no, it was a year ago we were pulling our hair out because kinney ball was just boring. I mean, it was all this side to side passing, a bit like an ice hockey power play without ever really getting anywhere near the goal. It was just going round and round in semicircles. It's very different now. Um,
mm,
in the other podcast we talked with him recently, but also after the game against Barza, he said he made two comments. He said to us in the bar that yeah, I mean the players were making like really simple mistakes, like they were passing to their teammate but to the wrong foot. So, what? The wrong foot? Like, if you pass it to your teammate and it goes within a few yards of him, for me, that's a successful pass. But they're even thinking about what foot to pass to. And he said the other
Yeah.
comment that we picked up on was nobody was turning on their first touch. And like these kind of insights and these ways of trying to get the players thinking. I mean, it might not be revolutionary, but I'm hearing this sort of stuff and thinking things are different. So, and the problem is that I keep talking about him when I go on other podcasts and radio stations, and eventually someone's going to hear that and think, "Oh, we'll have him." So I'm going to have to put a stop to it. Really, he's rubbish. Don't look over it. Nothing to see over here.
Yeah. I really like Stevie Grieve as a coach and as a person. I think the interview you did with him was magnificent. He really got to tell us a story about himself and to open up on his footballing philosophy. I think it was quite clear what kind of idea did he have about football, and to add to the previous part, no, it's not that revolutionary to coach onto which foot to pass. You do that with 10-year-olds and nowadays, but
It shows the level of
that's
coaching I got when I was 10. That was a long
yeah.
time ago.
Yeah, maybe it's developed quite a bit in Finland and also around the world, maybe
Yeah.
even in England,
Yeah.
because let's face it, you guys have been this at football for years compared to your size of a footballing country. But his ways of playing football in practice in the field, how SJK plays is really entertaining, and in when Ilves has faced as SJK this season, I've seen them live. They've been really, really difficult to play against. They have quite a unique mix on how they can defend, quite bravely and front-footed, then maybe be a bit more organized at some different stages of the game, but always when they have the ball, have the ability to go forward and find the successful passing lanes and stuff like that. I have to say, Mark, to you especially, that I have to apologize because I think a couple of episodes back we talked about SJK, and then I said you guys have to go for the double to win the Suomen Cup and also challenge for Veikkausliiga. I think you guys won something maybe close to a dozen games on the bounce from early June to the middle of August or something. But after that, you guys have like one win in 10.
You're the kiss. You're the kiss of death.
Yes, I might be just that, unfortunately. But I think I said in that previous episode that I don't expect a fall off such as last season under Joaquin Gomez to happen this time out, but the almost the same thing has happened. Not maybe quite so dramatically. There's been quite a few draws in there as well, and a good away win at Haka. But that away win at Haka is the only win for you guys.
It is, but there's only been one bad performance in all. That's the real difference. It's what you're watching, and you know, 5-5 against Lahti is ridiculous. And we took the lead in the first minute and then got the final equaliser in the 89th minute or something like that. And we all walked into the bar in a daze. And Stevie walked in and he just went, "What do you say about that?" Like, everyone was just stunned. No one really knew quite what had happened in that immediate aftermath. So it's entertaining. And I think that's all we want, isn't it? Like for our team, if your team's entertaining and it's challenging, not everyone can be at the top. SJK's the second youngest team, I think, in the division, so that ain't bad going. And I'm looking at the table right now, second highest scoring team, which is interesting because when you think of the number of chances we haven't taken, the games where we've had so many chances created and not taken them, we're still second highest scorers, just about. It's I guess it's the defensive side that can tighten up to make the big difference in that. But I don't think anyone's unhappy about how this season's gone.
And I don't think you should be, but it's interesting to me that where the fall off has come from. Is it just the playing style and the game model of Stevie Greaves? It's so demanding that the players are struggling to execute it to the required levels at this latter stage of the season. It takes quite a bit of energy to play football that way. It takes a lot of good footballers usually to play that way in like a complex system, and which requires a lot of running as well. So because you still have the top scorer in Veikkausliiga, of which I talked about on a Finnish podcast at Veikkaus YouTube channel, if any of our Finnish listeners wants to check that one out. But we talked about the low amounts of goals for the top scorers in Veikkausliiga. Jaime Moreno is top with 11 goals, and the top 10 is from 11 to 8 goals. That's you have the top scorer, you have good creative players, but where do you think you guys have fallen off this season?
Well, I don't think the players are showing signs of struggling with the way they're being asked to play. I would say not taking the chances. I think this is something that Stevie has sort of said. It's like he's had halftime team talks where he said to the players, "Don't like we're creating the chances. Don't let's be having a conversation at the end of the game about not taking those chances and not getting the points." that we deserve. So I I think for the chances it feels like we're creating, we've not been taking enough. And
Mm,
I think we had a patch where we conceded a lot of we looked defensively solid at the beginning of the season and then lost it a little bit in the middle, and we haven't conceded a ton of goals recently. I mean, the HJK was a bigger, 4 goals against, I think, in that away game. But I think taking chances. I mean, I think that's one area where we could be more clinical, and that's with Moreno on 11, Paananen on 7, Karjalainen on 7. Like, there are players there that have got goals, but
yeah, yeah.
probably they would all think they could have 5 more each from the chances we've created. Um,
Yeah, and all of those three goals and assists combined, they have double digits. Moreno with 13, Hannala 11, and Karjalainen 10.
mm,
Yeah, and Paananen with 7 goals. But
mm.
yeah, Hannala went with his 4 goals
Yes, yes,
combined with 7 assists. So he's been pretty productive as well. I
yes,
think
absolutely.
those numbers are perfectly fine. I don't think many teams have better numbers for top contributors in attacking stats than that. I think maybe Ilves has similar sort of stats and maybe a bit more variance to uh, in terms of the players who've got the goals and assists. But yeah, it's for me hard to put my finger on why you guys have fallen at this stage quite a bit behind the title challenge.
I'm gonna ask you to move on from SJK and
Yes,
tell us
I will.
tell us a little bit about Haka and VPS. They're sitting in fifth and sixth. Haka
uh,
on 38 points and VPS on 36. And Keke mentioned before they play each other in the final game, and it kind of matters to both of them. Like, if Haka win, they could potentially go above SJK into fourth. If VPS win, they will go above Haka into fifth. Okay, maybe it doesn't make too much. Well, no, it will make a difference who they play um, in the Euro playoffs. So they'll be fighting for that as well as some pride to finish as strong as possible at the end of this game, end of the season. But how do you see that kind of battle there?
uh, you could say it's interesting. I think those are still teams that they haven't had the greatest of times. They managed to get themselves in the championship group and haven't done a whole much whilst in there. Haka lost 3 in a row, but then beat HJK away, which gave them a fighting chance of leapfrogging SJK in the final round. Vepsu has had a really difficult season after a good start to the season, but then a really, really difficult time for actually quite a long period. They managed to get a first win in a long time against SJK. Before that, they drew 1-1 with HJK. So a decent couple of results for them. But then obviously last round, Ilves beat them away. I was actually at Vaasa, and I think they were decent, and they've been decent Vepsu for the majority of the season, but they just can't turn the matches in their favor by actually winning them. I don't think they're a bad side, but they just lack maybe a bit of quality, and maybe the way they played has been a bit found out this season, and they just don't have the quality that they had last season overall, although they had a couple of new arrivals such as Alfie Cicale, English guy with an Italian name. He's been a really exciting new guy to Veikkausliiga this season, and he's a really good player. Evgeny Bashkirov for Vepsu, also a really good guy. Haka, then I think they played a good season overall. 11 wins, 5 draws, and 10 defeats. They've challenged Ilves, for example, really good a couple of times. They did get beat 5-0 against Ilves in one of the 3 Pirkanmaa derbies of this season, but even in that match, I don't think the 5-0 told the whole story. They had a penalty at 0-0 and could have got something out of that if that penalty had gone in and stuff like that. I think those teams have pretty equal seasons to each other, like positive, but nothing great.
Yeah, I think I was talking just now about SJK away at HJK, and I need to put a correction in there. If I implied that there were a lot of goals conceded, it was a 2-2 draw away at HJK, and that's not to be sniffed at for SJK. It's not a happy hunting ground for us. So I'm just, while you were talking, flicking through and looking at the run of games for SJK, and that one jumped out at me. So yeah, of course, a better result than maybe I'd implied. Dropping into the bottom half, Gnistan had been mentioned a couple of times as of sort of being the fly in the ointment for a few of the other teams. They finished well. They've still got a game to go. Obviously, they can finish in 7th place, depending on the results in the final games. They're sitting there on 37 points at the moment, which is incredible, especially considering the sort of the fire and the catastrophe that they've had to deal with, as well as winning football matches.
Yeah, amazing the run they've been on since the tragedy, results wise, and it's obviously never a good thing that something like that happens. Is of course very tragic, but maybe there's a bit of a silver lining to their season, that obviously the whole team and the club and maybe even the wider Finnish football society came together on that one, and maybe the team got a big mental boost from that, and they've been fighting for their lives ever since, and they've not lost a Veikkausliiga match since the fire. So kudos to Jussi Leppälahti. He suffered a very unfortunate fate last season when he was in charge of KTP, and he got, in retrospect to say, he got ridiculously fired and to be replaced by Juha Malinen, who went on to become the James Bond of Finnish football, finishing the season with 0 wins, 0 draws, and 7 defeats. So he did the 007, and Jussi Leppälahti had to be the one suffering from that ridiculous decision. But when Gnistan got promoted to Veikkausliiga after Honka going to bankruptcy, Jussi Leppälahti got the job, and there was a joke that on the first day of his job, he got them promoted to Veikkausliiga, and he's a really dedicated, passionate footballing man. I think he's a good coach. He's like, how do you say, he's like a pound for pound coach. You know, he can take a smaller team and make them overperform by quite significant in significant ways. So he done that with Jippo in Joensuu, getting them promoted to Ykkönen at the time, and now with Gnistan he's done a good job for the last part of the season. I really hope they finish the season off strong.
Just as a quick summary, sitting in 7th place is Inter on 38 points. Then in 8th, Gnistan on 37. Oulu on 28 points. Then there's a bit of a gap down to Lahti in 10th and 23 points. Also 23 points in 11th place is Mariehamn. And EIF Ekenäs finished the season bottom. They currently got 18 points. We're going to hear in a moment from listener Farid, who also brought a friend onto the show. But before we do that, Rasmus, anything you want to say about Inter, Oulu, Lahti, Mariehamn? and their sort of season overall?
I think Inter shouldn't be anywhere near the relegation round. They should have been in the championship group, and I think most people expected them to be challenging for places such as SJK is, like fourth place, maybe even third place at the start of the season, because they got Vesa Vasara from Honka and quite a few players from that played for Honka last season and stuff like that. But Inter has been a disappointment this season, although they've improved quite a bit as the season has went on. They had the teen sensation Jules and Zoko, who moved to Ghent in Belgium in their academy system or something like that, but his cousin made his debut for Inter. Actually, he's of the same age as Julie, and from what I hear from a friend working as a coach in the Inter youth setup, he's saying that he's the next one to keep an eye on. So maybe next season there's another Nzoko lighting up the Veikkausliiga.
Yeah, you're right. Inter had a shocking start to the season, didn't they? And that since the summer they've been pretty good, but they've been pretty good from a low position and didn't quite get themselves into that top half. How about if we hear now from Farid, who was at Ekenäs on the final game of the season? He spoke with the capo or drummer, or maybe that's the same position down there, Isak. And Isak started by giving us a short biography of himself.
Yeah, so hi, my name is Isak, and I'm a supporter of Ekenäs EIF football team, and I live here in Tammisaari. I'm 39 years old. I have a family, 5 children, 1 wife, and I've played football almost all my life, and my mother club where I grew up is this EIF, the team. It's my favorite team in the whole world. I played there myself as a goalkeeper before, but we were not to this high level now. Now we the men's team have played in the highest league in Finland, Veikkausliiga. For 1 season, we just got relegated. We just tied a game, so this seals the relegation. And of course, it's a disappointment. The hopes have not been so high for some time. We have had trouble getting points the whole season. The season have been tough, of course, for the team, but of course for us as supporters as well. The losses have not been like a huge, 1 goal here, 1 goal there. It could have looked different, but this is how it went. I think we had problems scoring goals this season, and that's where it maybe fell. For us, it's special. 1 year ago, I stood here by this field. We were advancing. Getting up to the highest league from the
promotion. Yeah.
Promoted, yes, exactly. We were promoted last year. Was standing here, full of joy, leading the supporters with a few guys. We have a few guys who have been standing here for many years, 7-8 years. We've been supporting the team, and it was a dream come true to be promoted to the highest league, and we knew it was going to be tough. We said that, however it goes, we will support the team. We will enjoy it to the fullest, to be up there, to meet all these best teams in Finland. It has been a big joy for us, even though we now got relegated. We know that the first year is always the toughest, and for our part it was really tough, and but still I would say that we really enjoyed this year, and we took it in, and we we lived it through with the team, and they all did their best. We know that. You know, we have the smallest budget in the league, and you know.
I do agree that we enjoyed a lot.
Yeah.
And I think many people also from Helsinki come here and watch, enjoy the atmosphere in Ekenäs. So how do you see the future? I mean, of AIF, do you think that it would be like KuPS relegating, promoting, or do you think it would be like a ROPS or other like HJK or other bigger clubs which disappeared from the top divisions of this first or second divisions, and now unfortunately they are lower this? How do you see as a person that used to be a player and now as a kind of a club and
I know that we are a really steady first division team. You know, we have been that for a long time, and I think that that's the minimum where we play is the Ykkösliiga, the next highest level in Finland. You know, and there is stuff is being done very good here in Ekenäs. There's a lot of people putting effort into it. You know, making this possible, and I don't think they're gonna disappear anywhere. You know, we're gonna enjoy football here next year, and I would believe that we are like KTP. You know, next year we are up there, trying to come back, and because also we also always or the people working with the getting players, they always manage to get good players to this team, and we're a team that gets good players in, and then those players go forward to higher leagues, and I would say we're gonna continue with that, and with that recipe we're gonna be up there and trying to get back, and the next time we are up there then it's gonna be easier.
Thank you so much, Isak. Great to talk to you, and to all Finnish football show listener, I should say that we'll be back in 2 years. So I'll see you perhaps soon again. And thanks, Isak.
Thanks,
Farid. That was excellent. Thank you for that. I think EIF always had their work cut out this year. They made life difficult for some teams. 4 wins and 6 draws out of the 26 games so far, but just not enough to keep them in the division. But we certainly wish you all the best of luck next year back in the Ykkösliiga. Rasmus, anything to say about EIF before we maybe wrap up?
Not a whole lot, but I think it was something to expect when at the start of the season they just had the by far the weakest squad. Not a whole lot of their players had experience from Veikkausliiga previous. A lot of them had to grow into Veikkausliiga players this season. There's been a few loans. The manager left. I think it was published as by mutual consent, but I don't know how it really went down, but that wasn't a big surprise, and I think they've given everybody they faced a decent run for their money. They weren't terrible by any means, but they have 4 wins and 3 of them came against Gnistan. So
right,
so
okay,
maybe,
well, so that's one team that actually could beat Gnistan this year.
Yeah, a funny one that, but I actually saw EIF beating Gnistan at the last game before the fire of Gnistan's home stadium. So I was there watching one of their wins this season. But I think they were a breath of fresh air into Veikkausliiga as such, but you wouldn't expect otherwise, other than them to get relegated. So they gave it a good go, to say the least.
And I'm thinking that we probably need to do a little bit of something about Ykkösliiga, maybe in a future episode before we wrap up for the end of the year, because I know that another friend of the show, Tuomas is a Jippo fan, and Jippo are right there, near the top. As are Yaro, who are local here, so that could be another Pokemon derby. So let's see how the rest of the season plays out, and we'll talk about who's coming up into the Veikkausliiga in a future episode. But I think that just about wraps it up. We've been going for a long time, listener. Even if you haven't been listening to all of it all at once, we've been talking it all at once. Rasmus, thank you for that. Without you, our Veikkausliiga episodes would be very short and very empty. You're making these shows, so thank you for being with us.
Yeah, and sorry for keeping you guys up so late.
And Keke, thanks for joining.
Kiitos.
Mark, thanks for joining.
Kiitos.
And listener, until the next episode of the Finnish Football Show, thanks for listening. Goodbye.